This past decade in particular has tested the mettle and demonstrated the strength and merit of the World Bank and IMF. The international political and economic institutions created after 1945 rested upon a belief that the key to national development and human progress is individual freedom, both political and economic. The Bretton Woods institutions and the GATT established generalized rules and procedures to facilitate individual enterprise and an open international trading and financial system. They recognized that economic incentives and increasing commercial opportunities would be essential to economic recovery and growth. We who live in free market societies believe that growth, prosperity, and ultimately human fulfillment are created from the bottom up, not the government down. Only when the human spirit is allowed to invent and create, only when individuals are given a personal stake in deciding economic policies and benefiting from their success, only then can societies remain economically alive, dynamic, prosperous, progressive, and free. The IMF also plays a critical role in establishing conditions to encourage private capital flows to deficit countries. By reaching agreements with the IMF on a sound, comprehensive stabilization program, and by demonstrating its determination to implement that program, a borrowing country signals private markets of its intent to solve its own economic problems. We're committed to a pragmatic search for solutions to produce lasting results. By working together through such institutions as the IMF and World Bank, we can all seek to collaborate on joint problems, share our insights, and encourage the common good. These institutions have reflected a shared vision of growth and development through political freedom and economic opportunity. A liberal and open trade and payment system would reconstruct a shattered world and lay the basis for prosperity to help avoid future conflicts. This vision has become reality for many of us. Let us pledge to continue working together to ensure that it becomes reality for all.
What is the relationship with Ripple and the IMF, and why does that relationship matter? This will be an ongoing series throughout the week, so consider smashing that like. Let's get into it, starting off with our brother in the space, Smoke. Take it away, sir.
Nice to be here again. Thanks for the invite, Maximus, and of course, nice to meet you, Jesse. Of course, as Maximus just mentioned, we're going to get into the explore topic of what is the relationship between Ripple and the IMF. And this is a pressing topic in the crypto community when it comes to what is the implications of this, what is the nature of this relationship. And I think the first thing that we should start off on to begin this conversation on who is the IMF, and the IMF, which stands for the International Monetary Fund, is basically a global money manager for all countries. It's an organization where most of the nation's money is pulled together so that if a country gets into a big financial crisis, the IMF can basically step in and either pay off their debt or stabilize their currency with the pool of money that they control. I would say you can look at the IMF as something as a mixture between a bank for countries and a referee for the entire financial system. So just with that definition out the way, we can get into the documentations for today. So again, when we think of the IMF, we think of the major global regulators of the world, and as you can see in this diagram, which is an overview of the global cooperation of the regulatory landscape, we can see the most powerful regulators in the world, along with the IMF, the FSB, the BIS, the CPMI, which is underneath the G20 central banks. This just goes to show how powerful the IMF is in relation to other international institutions and how they are positioned in relation to each other. And as we can see, multiple arrows targeting towards the IMF. The IMF is a central part to the entire global financial system, which is why when questions regarding Ripple and IMF's relationship come up, it is important to know what is the true nature of this relationship. Moving on, this is a presentation from Ripple themselves, where you can see underneath their regulatory and policy engagement, Ripple was selected to serve on the IMF's high-level advisory group on fintech. This is not a small achievement or small feat. Ripple is the only crypto company that is on this high level advisory group on fintech, and this is a statement directly from Ripple. And this goes to show that the IMF trusts Ripple and has seeked out a professional in the crypto industry, a professional company that has been leading blockchain solutions on a high level to be selected by a global regulator like the IMF. And we can see where the IMF falls in the global regulatory landscape, that choosing Ripple as a member of their high level advisory group shows that the IMF trusts Ripple on a high level to advise them on global financial issues. Moving on, this is should be a photo that most people who are in the crypto community should have seen, but this is a popular image that shows representation from Ripple, as you can see here, Brad Garlinghouse and Jesse Chang right here, who both who both work for Ripple. But Jesse Chang, as you can see here, worked for the FinTech Council of the IMF. Jesse Chang was also a counsel for Ripple as well. And as you can see right here, this is a group picture of the high-level advisory group of the IMF's interdepartmental working group on finance and technology. And there's also, if you just take a glance on this picture, there's members from Hong Kong, Global Digital Finance, Chief Officer of FinTech at the Ministry of Singapore. So there's even Swift is on in this picture that's representing this image as well. So it goes to show the serious conversations and the serious rooms that Ripple is placing as the only crypto company represented in these serious conversations of our professionals. Moving on, this is Jesse Chang's LinkedIn, which is again a Ripple employee that's represented in this IMF picture. But this is an LinkedIn post that confirms that she has presented to the IMF on Ripple and XRP. Very few companies, if any other companies, crypto companies in this blockchain ecosystem, has had the privilege to present to a global regulator like the IMF on the utility of their token and as a representative of a private sector company. And this was as far back as 2018. So this is a actual anecdotal situation where you can see how Ripple has had a in-person interaction and presentation with the IMF, and how much trust exists in between Ripple and the IMF. Moving on, here, this is from LEI Worldwide, directly from their website, and they're expanding on the relationship between IMF and Ripple. As we can see in the top highlighted portion, it says, "We know it is currently being discussed within the IMF and the World Economic Forum with projects such as Ripple Ledger, potentially offering faster, more reliable, and cost-effective ways to send money abroad. An example that would be remittances. This could form a new stable bridge currency, liquidating trillions of capital held in reserve in foreign pre-funded accounts, and provide stimulus to the wider economy, which is the exact economic boost needed in these difficult times." And if you remember what I spoke upon earlier, that's basically the role of the IMF, is to step into financial difficulties when countries are experiencing them and provide a solution, such as paying off debt or stabilizing currency. So by working with Ripple and utilizing XRP, it could accelerate the solutions that the IMF provides for countries across the world. Now, moving on, just to expand on the LEI, the legal entity identifier label. Ripple has a legal identity identifier, and if you don't know what the legal entity identifier is, here is the 5 reasons why, the top 5 reasons why companies are being instructed to receive a legal entity identifier, because the LEI is the most important standardized digital global identifier. So the fact that the official LEI website has cited Ripple as a potential partner with the IMF to provide stimulus to the wider economy, on top of the fact that Ripple has the LEI, ties together how serious this relationship is and how official this relationship is as well. But also, to further expand upon this point of the LEI, this is a document straight from Swift that expands on what the LEI label gives to a crypto company that utilizes this identifier. And it says here, it says, if and LEI is provided, then this is an exact identifier that can provide 100% match and validation in milliseconds. So LEIs allow different companies that aren't familiar with each other to identify each other within milliseconds, which allows payment transactions and settlement speeds to be enhanced by a significant amount. So when we see that LEIs can speed up a transaction to milliseconds, we can move on to here to see why Ripple as a company was even chosen to receive an LEI. As we can see here, it says the cryptocurrency Ripple XRP proposes a mean to overhaul or replace the Swift messaging system with a peer-to-peer system based on distributed ledger technology. In doing so, they synchronize the messaging flow, transaction information status with the actual flow of value, the XRP currency, within milliseconds. Two banks are connected and the settlement is either successful or either succeeds or fails. So the fact that we have documented evidence of the LEI identifier allowing payments to be sped up to milliseconds and XRP as a currency being able to keep up with this speed ties into the fact that why the IMF trusts Ripple as a company to even be chosen as a potential solution to provide stimulus to the wider economy to form a new stable bridge currency under the umbrella of the LEI. So that truly, I would say, touches on the nature of this relationship because it allows the average retail investor to see that a private sector company is now expanding into the public realm and the public field through the IMF and even other global regulators. But the IMF is certainly ranks high on the global financial ecosystem as a top regulator, and seeing this evidence as Ripple as a private company partner with the IMF, it certainly goes to show the potential of this company as well as the positioning of XRP for success in the traditional financial system. And that's the documentation that I have on this topic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Smoke. It says on that visual, the LEI helps identify debtors and creditors in transactions quickly and easily. You know, we talk a lot about, obviously, Ripple, especially with on-demand liquidity. You have a company that moving forward, especially with ODL, tokenizing debt. And a lot of times we've been talking about these concepts for a while, whether it's with Ripple or maybe some of these other ISO related projects that are out there. Can you just touch bases a little bit more on this? Or maybe Jesse, if you want to touch on it, either one. I just thought that was interesting in your findings. It wasn't highlighted, but again, that whole topic.
I understand. In this context, what they mean on debtors and creditors, I would say you could look at it as senders and receivers as well. So that's when we're discussing payment systems and we're discussing the language that SWIFT uses, that global regulators uses, and especially in the ISO system, they're updating the definitions the definitions within the messages. So credit and debtors is the new receivers and senders. And there's something that I posted online as well that even the FedWire update, the ISO update, they're changing definitions. So even wires, US wires, we're no longer saying that as we move forward with ISO definitions. So credit and debtors is just a upgraded ISO definition.
Thank you for that. What about you, Jesse? What do you have to share with us in regard to the findings of Smoke and on this topic?
First of all, it's so nice to be here with you, Smoke, and Max. Appreciate it very much. It's really an honor to be here with Smoke and meet Smoke for the first time. It's just awesome. Just alpha from him all the time. So it's so nice to be here. Yeah, the way I see it, the legal entity identifier, the LEI, and the ISO both were literally, in my opinion, from my research, they were both created to adopt Ripple. It's for Ripple to have that seamless cross-border instant liquidity, because if you look at the ISO, for example, the messaging has to be standardized. You can settle a transaction instantly on RippleNet or on the XRP ledger, but if the banks communicating are not using the same message, like if for one bank, their messaging is like 6 rows and the other bank, it's like 9 rows, like it doesn't work. You can't have like one bank send a payment and they're giving the first and last name of the customer, the account number, and maybe the institution number and so on. And then another bank, it's not even the same information. It has to be all standardized. And they started working on this in 2004, the ISO. same time Ripple Labs came, OpenCoin, stuff like that. And so the LEI, I see the same thing. And sorry, just to go back, a lot of people don't realize, but for the ISO, for example, Ripple is the only blockchain company on the steering committee. I didn't say it's the only one compliant, ISO compliant. It's the only one on the steering committee. And now we see the same thing here, which Smoke points out that literally we see the LEI, we see the most powerful, one of the most powerful institutions in the world. It's a lender of last resort. They literally bail countries out. I won't go in detail about why they bail them out and what kind of repercussion that the country faces after they've dealt with the IMF. It's not good, let me tell you. But you see them here documented that literally the IMF mentions Ripple and the LEI, which is again another global standard coming from the highest institution, and Ripple on the document. So it's all about making everything seamless. The LEI and the ISO, it's all about making sure that Ripple is successful, that the XRP ledger becomes the internet of value, it becomes that main global liquidity layer, and it fixes the Triffin's dilemma and all the issues, some of the things that Smoke talked about. It's really all about Ripple's success. And this has been planned for over 30 years. And without these two standards, Ripple cannot be successful. It cannot be that new global reserve currency and technically the new ESDR, which we'll get in later on in our other collaborations. This has to be done, and that's why we're seeing Ripple in the middle of all of it, the LEI and the ISO.
Fair enough. Smoke, do you have any closing comments based off of what Jesse just shared?
Yes, I agree with the sentiments Jesse shared. I would also just like to expand upon the fact that Ripple as a company was chosen to meet a specific shortcoming of the financial system. And I would say for the IMF in this situation, the IMF struggles with keeping up with that responsibility of finding quick solutions and distributing liquidity globally in a fast, efficient, cheap manner, and managing these global liquidity pools. And just to expand on Jesse's point, Ripple was voted into the ISO DLT steering committee in 2020. That wasn't a long time ago. So when we discuss progress and we discuss how long this process is taking, this is recognizing that Ripple was just invited into an international standards committee in 2020 that let you know when it was decided that Ripple was going to be the solution, and when did that process begin. And that process truly began when Ripple joined the ISO standards committee, and all the progress that has followed then has built upon the fact that blockchain technology needs to be standardized. We need proper definitions, and we need global digital identifiers like the LEI to facilitate global money movement, rapid money movement, and settlement of transactions within milliseconds. And the LEI, in combination with the fast, efficient crypto token like XRP, allows money to finally flow in a fast, efficient, and free manner that even third world countries can actually participate in a financial ecosystem without a heavy cost burden.
I see Ripple being added in 2020, but I always see them working in the back end before. But 2020, let's say, making it public in 2020, right? That's where my mind goes. Like, I find that they're always telling us or making things public 2 or 3, 4 years after it's been already taken place. So, for example, the way I see Ripple, even if you look at the global RTGS, if you look at the RTGS systems, which is the real-time gross settlement that every central bank has, we see in the early 2000s, the central banks of the world are revamping their real-time gross settlement. And then we see a document coming from the Hyperledger Foundation where Ripple is the global RTGS. So it's that global settlement layer for all of the RTGS systems that the banks have. So I see that, like, for me, the ISO that started 2004, for example, I think it was when they started working on the ISO, the LEI, and the 2020, like you said, Ripple gets joined in. I think this, like, they're already working in the back end, and I see even the global RTGS being updated in 2020. Most central banks working on that is, again, just to accommodate this new global RTGS that Ripple is bringing to the table, because the central banks are all building their CBDCs on private ledgers of the public XRP ledger. So it's just to say that I see, and I may be, well, I don't think I'm wrong, actually. I was going to say maybe wrong, but I don't think so. I've done too much research to think that. But yeah, I would just say I think they might have made it public 2020, but they were, the whole reason for it, again, was they would have been working on it prior, maybe. They know Ripple is, but they just made it public 2020. Would you agree with that, Smoke?
Yes, I would agree. There's several documentation that I've seen that date Ripple's involvement to updating the financial system with even the Federal Reserve back to 2014. There's several workshops and there's several meetings that Ripple and Interledger Protocol that has shown that Ripple has been instrumental in just the progress of just digitizing the financial system. This isn't a new conversation. This is something that has been a conversation for decades. But as you just said, I would agree that 2020 was the first step to begin the process of starting blockchain mainstream adoption on the back end, digitizing commercial bank deposits, just allowing stable coins to proliferate. 2020 certainly started that progress. So you could say the pandemic contributed to that, accelerated it, but it was always an inevitable reality of all finances needs to go digital. And Ripple was certainly has played their cards right to position themselves to be a leading solution to for the financial system to digitize it.
Well, they wouldn't be able to. I always argue they wouldn't be able to do even 2% of what they're doing if they weren't backed from the very beginning. Because to become the new global reserve currency and that liquidity layer for the whole world, you don't do that unless you have full banking from the central banking system. And we can look at any president or country that has tried to do even 5% of what Ripple is doing, and we see what happened to them. Yeah, I appreciate your input, Smoke, of course.
All right, you guys. Well, there you have it for today's segment. There will be more segments we'll get really deep into. Again, if you appreciate this type of content, please give these two a follow. For one, Jesse's channel is Apex Crypto Consulting, NFA, or if you want the cheat code, you just look up Apex XRP Consulting comes up, or Apex Jesse Quant, that way it comes up too. There's also Smoke, who's here. He can be followed over on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, over at SMQKE Check out the Smoke Room for extended premium alpha as well. Tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great one. We'll see you guys on the next one. Over and out.
On prime side, the New York Times side, staying alive was no jive. And secondhand moms down stole old man. So then we moved to Shaolin Land. Yo, blocking the go-to. Logos, only way I think in the G off is drug news. And let's start it like this, Rolling with this one and that one, pulling out gas for fun. But it was just a dream for the team. Who was a fiend? Started smoking woolies at 16 and running up in dates and doing hits for house days, making my way on fire estates. No question, I was deep for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed. No question, I would go up and try to get the dough off, sticking up white boys and ball courts. My life got no better, same damn low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. Figured I went the wrong route, so I got rid of sick old clique and went all out, catching keys from cross seas, rolling in MPVs. Every week we made 40 G's. Your brother, respect my. On here go the Tech 9. Check, pow. Who from the gate now? Cash rules everything around me. R-E-A-M. Get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules everything around me. R-E-A-M. Get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules everything around me. R-E-A-M. Get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules.
How would you like to earn an extra $100, $200, or even $500 a day, even more than that? I have many friends that are earning money every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you, and you will earn according to his trades. Sometimes I follow All the Money by Q, and his trades earn me money. He has a 93% success rate, and he earns a great percentage. So even if you don't know how to trade, there is a way to make money. But I suggest learn how to trade. Earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy, you don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your Decent wallet. The Decent wallet was not affected by the recent XRPL debacle, where the backdoor of many wallets was open and there was a breach. So Decent wallet was not affected by that. Decent wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a Decent wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on an exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you.